Here I am, guys. Here I am. I'm going live, and I'm gonna I'm gonna wait a minute before I actually start to break down this article from Colorado. It's an article written by Scott Proctor, and the title of the article says why Colorado football's offensive line will be improved for Deion Shedeur Sanders in 2024. So he's going to give his reasons, and I'm going to read it. And you know I'm going to break it down from an objective lens. There are going to be things that I don't agree with, of course, and you guys are going to have to just endure that because there are people that are going to be quick to call me a hater, but I'm going to just give my own personal perspective on it. And what I'm going to do here, I'm going to share my screen because I want to read the article with you guys. And I want us to all collectively just break it down. I'm going to be reading comments as much as I can. I'm not going to be able to catch everything, and I'll respond to your comments as you give them. So let me share my screen and see if there's going to be any sort of lag. You know, those glitches. Let's see. Let's see how this works. I'm going to share my screen here for a second. Uh, Cross my fingers here. Let's hope it works. Okay. See, I can already see the lagging because I'm moving. I'm not fluid on the screen. See, my hand has a little bit of a delay. Yeah, it's a little bit of a delay. Okay, so this is what I'm going to do. I have one person in the chat right now. And if as I'm talking, if there's a lot of glitching involved and there's like a long lag, let me know. Let me know. Because to me, I don't know, I like reading the article as it's on the screen because it's almost like classes in session, so to speak. We get to just look at the article together. I don't like reading at people. I like reading with people. I don't want to give you guys any type of false, I don't know, false perception of me talking at you. I want to be talking with you as a community. So um, as I'm talking, is there a lag? Am I glitching? Am I glitching? Anyone comment? Let me know. Because if I am, then I'm not going to read the article like in terms of reading it while I'm sharing. What I will do is just read the article and just not share, but which is kind of, I don't know, I don't like it. I prefer it this way. Wi-Fi connection here is horrible, to say the least. Yeah, it's horrible. It's horrible. Okay, I'm going to start. Hopefully it comes out okay. Hopefully it comes out okay. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to record on two separate. I'm going to record on two separate things. I'm going to record on my cell phone, and I'm also going to record on my Mac PC. I'm going to do that. So in case one doesn't go well, I'll just upload the one on my phone. But the one on my phone won't show the article. But we'll see how that goes. This is experimental. I've never done anything like this before, so let's see how it works. Okay, I'm gonna set up here like that. That can be seen. All right, we'll get you another one. We'll get you another one. We'll get you another one. That's my son crying for something. We'll get you another one. Oh, That scared me.
Broken.
It's broke? Okay. We'll have to get another one, okay? I can't fix that one. That's totally destroyed.
Daddy, I want a white blue one.
You want a white blue one? Okay, I'll get you one, okay? All right, Daddy's about to record, okay? So can Daddy work? Okay.
Daddy, is this mine when I be a baby?
Yeah, that was yours when you were a baby. Yep, that was yours. That was your thing, boy.
Daddy, why is this yours?
All right. Is there a lag, guys? Comment. Let me know before I start reading this article and breaking it down. As a matter of fact, while you guys are on here, let me take a second to get my son out of here because he's not gonna let me read. He's gonna continue to make noise. Cairo, come on, you gotta exit, boy.
No.
So that it could work.
Daddy, can my phone TV?
Yeah, you can throw that away. You can throw that away. Go watch TV with Aria, okay? Okay. I'll be out in a second, okay?
Daddy, can I lock the door?
Yeah, lock the door for Daddy. Thank you. Thank you, boy. Big boy. There you go. All right. Yeah, throw it in the trash. All right, I'm gonna begin because no one has actually commented to tell me if I have a lag, so I'm gonna just begin. Hopefully there is no lag. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna read the article from www.coloradone.com is an article written by Scott Proctor. Okay. This article was written June 11th. So I'm a couple of days behind, but let's get into it. So let's break down the title. Okay. So let's look at the title as objective critical thinkers, right? So when you look at an article, there's always the title is usually intentionally used as a means to elicit an emotional response, but we don't want that. True journalism means that you're going to just state the facts. So let's break down this article that I just highlighted, right? Let's break down the title. The title says why Colorado football's offensive line will be improved for Shedeur Sanders in 2024. Okay, so I'm going to ask you guys reading this, does this look like an article that's laced with just unbiased, or do you think there's some bias in this title? Do you think that this title that I've highlighted, the way it's written, why Colorado football's offensive line will be improved for Shedeur Sanders in 2024? Okay, now if you ask me, I don't think that this article or this title of this article is written in a way that elicits an emotional response. It's written with a high degree of objectivity. There's no bias in there. There aren't any words in there that are going to pull on the heartstrings or move you emotionally. So there aren't any buzzwords in there. It says the words improved, but it's saying why it's going to be improved. So that lets you know that if you read the article, it's going to give its rationale and give its reasons as to why the author thinks that the offensive line will be improved, or why the author thinks that Colorado football's offensive line will be improved. So this article is a true journalistic article in terms of the title. The title is true journalism at its core. It doesn't have any buzzwords. It doesn't have any idioms. It doesn't have any metaphors in there. It doesn't have any tongue-in-cheek that's put in there to insert emotional response. It's just vanilla. It's just meh. But that's what you want. You want the title to just state facts. You don't want the title to lure you in. So as critical thinkers, we have to be very aware of that, because if you read articles that have titles that elicits an emotional response, it tends to almost persuade or influence your thinking, but it does it in a subtle way. So this doesn't do that in a subtle way. It's just pretty much unbiased and pretty much objective. Okay, so let me read on. Let's start with the first paragraph. All right, let's start with the first paragraph. And occasionally, guys, you'll see me look down here. I'm looking down at when I look down here, I have two cameras. I'm looking up here. This is my Mac PC. And when I sometimes look down, I'm looking at my cell phone. So it's like I'm in two places at once, because I'm recording it twice, because I know that I feel like there's a lag on this. So if there is a lag, I won't upload this. I'll upload the cell phone footage, because the cell phone footage is much smoother. All right, so let's get started. It says Deion Sanders didn't mince words after his son, Colorado quarterback Shedeur Sanders, was hit 17 times, knocked down 13 times, and sacked 7 times and lost to UCLA last fall. Now, I'm going to stop there and I'm going to break that paragraph down. Okay. Um, who watched that game? Leave a comment in the chat if you watched that game against when Colorado played UCLA. I want try to let's really focus and think as adults here, okay? Let's try our best to do so. If the offensive line is one of the weakest, aspects or weakest facets of the football team, why would you continue to pass the ball knowing that your offensive line is inept? There's a high degree of ineptitude with your offensive line. So why would you continue doing the same? The job of a coach is to hone in on the strengths of the team. Am I making sense, guys? The job of a good coach is to use the strength is to accentuate the strengths of the team, not to stress the weaknesses of the team by putting the football team in its weakest state, throwing the ball, knowing that your offensive line is weak. That's number one. Number two of the defensive linemen for UCLA were NFL prospects. So you already have 2 out of the 4 defensive linemen that are rushing in to get Shedeur are going to be in the NFL draft. There's no one on your offensive line, Colorado, that's going to the NFL. Your offensive line is not that strong in pass blocking or in run blocking. But I would argue and make the argument are run blockers than they are pass blockers, because pass blocking, I've made several videos about this. Pass blocking takes skill, strategy, it takes camaraderie, it takes team chemistry. It's a skill that you have to build over time to be a great pass blocker. Run blocking is just man on man. It's just you exerting your physical brute force on the man that's in front of you because you're pushing them back. Whereas pass blocking, you're backpedaling. It's a lot of strategies, a lot of arm movement, and there needs to be continuity within all the offensive linemen to be moving in one accord. And that takes time to build that chemistry with an offensive line. They have to almost be on a string. When Coach Prime put the team together, number one, it was rushed. A lot of people were jaded, including me. I thought they were going to come in and, well, I didn't think they were going to come in and go undefeated or anything like that, but I thought that they would be better than what they were. In terms of how they looked on the football field. I'm not looking at the record. I'm looking at how they played and how they lost games. Sometimes numbers don't give you the full narrative. It doesn't really give you the full story. You have to actually watch the game and receive it through many different means to make a full, well-rounded conclusion about the events that occurred. Because if you just look at their record, they went 4-8. You're like, oh yeah, well, they won 3 more games. They were decent. No, they weren't. It's the way they looked. So in this paragraph here, what I see this first paragraph doing, it's already setting up the platform or setting up the foundation where the offensive line is being thrown underneath the bus of last year. Because look at the numbers it gives. It says Sanders was hit 17 times, knocked down 13 times, and sacked 7 times. Let me ask a question again. Anyone in the chat, do you think that some of those things happening, do you think that some of it could be attributed to play calling? Or do you think that none of it has to do with play calling? Do you think that play calling could have mitigated some of those numbers from being so high? I watched the game. Colorado was very predictable. They were very predictable. There was no, like, the defensive linemen for UCLA, there was no gap responsibility. They just pinned their ears back. And I'm like, okay, hell, we know the offensive line can't hold up, and we know we can get to Shedeur. So if that's the fact, as an offensive coordinator, you don't continue to pass. You mix it up. You weren't going to beat UCLA, But to continue to put Shedeur Sanders in harm's way, I don't need. I need someone who, well, maybe I should have done it. If someone can pull up the stats of that UCLA game and tell me how many drop back passes Shedeur had versus how many run plays they had, I'm sure you'll see that the discrepancy is highly, is a high contrast in how much passing and how much run they had. There was a huge imbalance there. Okay. So yes, these numbers are true. These are factual, but there's in context. This is not all the offensive line. You cannot put your offensive linemen in harm's way. Yes, we understand that they're bad, but okay, you have a good quarterback in Shedeur. The offensive line is not that great. I'm sorry, Coach Prime. You're going to have to get the ball out of your son's hand and have him handing the ball off to other people so they can take the hits. Your son literally got his back fractured last season, having to take morphine injections in the games, going to the locker room in halftime, getting injections just to continue to play. Okay, so that this here is not telling you the full factual statements, but it's up to you as a critical thinker to have had watched the game. And as a football fan, of anybody who has any type of knowledge of football, there are going to be certain parts of your team that are not going to be that strong. What you don't want to do as a coach is continue to expose your weaknesses while completely just ignoring your strengths. Yes, we know the strengths of Colorado was throwing the ball because they had explosive receivers, they had Shedeur Sanders, they have Travis Hunter. We get it. But if your quarterback doesn't have time to throw the ball, it's really irrelevant. It's a moot point to try to continue to enforce or try to reinsert your theme or your gameplay or the schemes that you have to prove a point. You're not proving a point. What you're proving is that your offensive line is horrible. And since we know that, then stop putting your son in harm's way. Do something else because you weren't going to beat UCLA anyway. Just run the ball and punt it. Mix it up. I mean, I don't know. So that's my take on that paragraph. Let's go on to the second paragraph. It says the big picture is you get new linemen, Deion Sanders said after the loss on October 28th. That's the picture, and I'm going to paint it perfectly. Those were the words of a coach, all right, to his young team. And that's not something you say publicly. Now, some of you guys that are, blind supporters of Prime, y'all think that everything he does is correct. That's not correct. That's not the best approach. That's not the best practice to literally throw your offensive lineman underneath the bus on national television. The big picture is that you get new linemen. So what he's saying or what he's implying is that our team is good, but the problem is my offensive line because they won't block for my son. So he's no longer speaking like a head coach. He's speaking like a father, and he's letting his emotions get the best of him, which is why we have to be very careful and we do have to mince words. Because if Shedeur was just a normal quarterback, and if Shedeur was not his son, he wouldn't talk that way. He'll be more diplomatic in his approach. He would be more political with his approach. But when it's your child and you're speaking on the protection of your child because his child is getting beat up out there, and 90% of the blame should go to Prime because of it, because he's the one okaying the pass plays. He can shut it down. He's the head coach. And remember, the buck stops with Prime. He can make the executive decision and say, hey, man, we're not throwing. We're going to just run the ball, eat clock. It's okay if we lose. I don't want my son getting beat up. But Coach Prime has to prove a point. He wants to prove that his son Shedeur belongs in the Power 5 conference, and he wants to prove that his son is a reputable and a formidable Heisman Trophy candidate. That's what he wants to prove. So in his ambition and in his blind endeavor to prove that, sound logic and sound judgment becomes obsolete. It's not there. And then after the game is over with, even when he's speaking to reporters, this is what he's saying. I don't know if he said this directly after the game, but I know he said this toward the end of the season. The big picture is you get new linemen. Because I think one of the questions asked to him was like, what are you going to do? Live out your dreams, my boy. Oh, man, thank you. Thank you so much. Live out your dreams. My boy. Oh, that's your name. Your username is live out your dream, live out your dreams. And you put my boy. Appreciate you, man. Appreciate it. So yeah, so that statement there, you don't do that. Everyone knew. You didn't have to be a rocket scientist to see that the offensive line wasn't that good. But as a coach, you got to have your players back in the public eye. Maybe in the locker room you could rip them apart, but don't say that. So I think that this was a wrong way that Coach Prime handled this. This statement here was not right. Okay, I'm gonna move on to the next paragraph. Hopefully I'm not lagging. If I am lagging, guys, leave a comment, tell me that I'm lagging, and I'll stop sharing the my screen. Okay, the next paragraph, the one that I highlighted, it says, despite being the most sacked, let me read this. It says Prime got 15 receivers for Shedeur. No cap. Everybody ain't gonna play like they did Omarion last year. Yeah, it's so many receivers that you can throw to. It's like overload. And all these players are going to try to compete for their spot, which is good. It creates competition, live out your dreams. But then it also causes a lot of dreams to be crushed because a lot of those receivers who don't play are good. They can go elsewhere. So, that's a lot of receivers, man. It's a lot of receivers. Good point. Good point. All right. So this paragraph here says, despite being the most sacked quarterback in the country last season, he was sacked 52 times. And I believe that the 52 times of the sacks, majority of the blame goes to the offensive line, but some of the blame goes to play calling as well. It's not all the offensive line's fault. When you're too predictable, it makes it easier for defensive linemen to get to your quarterback. It goes on to say here that Shedeur Sanders will. Okay, it goes on to say here that Shedeur Sanders was still able to complete 69.3 of his passes, eighth best in FBS, and throw for a school record 3,230 yards to go along with 27 touchdowns in his first year at the FBS level. And those numbers are impressive, considering the fact of the kind of duress that he had to go through. But I remind you guys, most of those completions were basically short yardage passing. They literally used their pass game as a run game. They would just kind of throw those short hitch passes, um, bubble screens, things like that. I mean, he would go deep occasionally, a little bit misleading. If you watch the games, most of his passes were short. What do you call those routes with short slants? A lot of it was short slants, and but considering the kind of duress that he was under, these are very good numbers. So I can imagine what would happen if he did get more time. But we'll see. We'll see. Only time will tell. So it says, despite being the most sacked quarterback 52 times in the country last season, Shedeur Sanders was still able to complete 69.3% of his passes, which was eighth best in the FBS. And he threw for a school record of 3,230 yards to go along with 27 touchdowns in his first year at the FBS level. As impressive as his individual season was, the inconsistency in his protection from the offensive line hindered the overall success of this offense. That's true. That's true. But not only was the inconsistency of his protection a cause of what materialized, they need to also say offensive play calling. That has something to do with it. Good coaches, they know how to put their teams in position to maximize their strengths. What I saw happening as I watched the games was a coach that had an agenda, that wanted to show the world how great his son was, and so he was going to pass the ball by any means necessary. Even when a reporter asked him the question about bringing in an extra tight end to kind of chip block to give Shedeur a little bit more time, Coach Sanders refused. Coach Prime says, no, I think it's better five wide. It gives us more options. But yeah, if your son has more options, he needs time to read the options. He doesn't have time to read the options. So as he's reading the options, he's getting obliterated. He's getting beat the hell up. So, as much as they all want to blame everything on the offensive line, I think that some of the blame goes to play calling as well. I'm sorry. I'm not going to, I'm not saying that the offensive line were great. We know they weren't that good, but I'm not going to. The offensive play calling and Coach Prime, everyone should get a percentage of the blame in this, because you're putting those kids in a position to fail. You don't set your kids up to fail. whether it's your real biological kids or whether it's kids you're coaching, you put them in the best position to excel. And could being very pass heavy was not the way. Now the comeback to that is, well, they couldn't run block anyway. Well, they didn't even commit to the run. They didn't make an effort to commit to the run. They only ran to say, oh, we ran it, or we didn't get any yards. See, that's why we have to pass. It was almost as if they were trying to run to justify why they had to pass. They were called dumb running plays. Running, what's that? The little guy that left, Dylan Edwards down the middle. Like, really? What tackles is Dylan Edwards going to break down the middle? It was just to show that we're trying to run. We're not gaining any yards. So this is why we have to pass the ball 50 plus times or 40 plus times with Shedeur. They didn't really have a scheme to commit to the run. They did not. And they had good running backs to lift, to take some of the pressure off of Shedeur. They could have used their running game a little bit more. They chose not to. Live out your dreams. You say 5 wide is crazy work. It is crazy work. It is, because you need time to read that 5 wide. Then if you're going to have 5 wide, I would say if you're going to have 5 wide, then your offensive line better be beast. And they didn't have a beast offensive line. They had a poor offensive line in terms of pass blocking. I would argue, like I've said before, I think that the offensive line were better at run blocking than they were at pass blocking, which is what usually happens with an offensive line that hasn't been together too long. They become better run blockers. It takes time to evolve to being a better pass blocking team. But yeah, that's crazy work. 5 wide, that's insane. All right, so let me continue to read along. It says constant pressure limited Sanders' ability to make aggressive downfield throws and create off schedule. More importantly, leaky protection far too often resulted in negative play sacks, fumbles, turnovers, etc. That's true. That's true. And that could be attributed to play calling as well. Everything can be the offensive line. That's what good coaches do. You see what your team has, you see what they lack, you try to stay away from what they're weak at. You try your best, if possible. You don't pass on first down, second down, third down. You don't. You mix it up. You make the attempt to do something different. And maybe that's the way to build their morale. When an offensive line can block and a running back gets about 5-7 yards a pop, and let's say the running back breaks for like 40 yards. Do you know what that does to the morale of the offensive line? They feel rejuvenated. There's an electricity that flows through that offensive line. They're like, oh my God, we're doing it. That propels them and compels them to actually block better on the offensive side of the ball, even when they're doing pass blocking. So you almost have to play side. You almost have to put on your psychologist hat when you're a coach. You're dealing with young men that are still impulsive and temperamental. All of them don't have their frontal lobes developed. You have to build their confidence. So you continue to put them in harm's way and put them in a position where they are at their weakest. And then you blame them after the game to say, I'm going to replace them and get new ones. What are you doing to their confidence? You're not helping it. And I think some of those games, some of those offensive linemen were like, man, to hell with Shedeur. I think some of those games they threw it. When I say they threw it, I mean that they didn't try to block for him. I would not be surprised if some of those offensive linemen were like, screw Shedeur and screw Prime. Anyway, reading along here. It says Deion Sanders made good on his promise of bringing in new linemen via the transfer portal. We know he loves the transfer portal. That's the way he's trying to build his team. But can the Colorado Buffs significantly improve up front in just one offseason? Here's why they can. So now he's going to get into the whys of why he thinks that they are going to. What? Okay. I'm coming. I'll get you something. Mom made spaghetti. I'll get you guys some. Let me finish and I'll put you guys some spaghetti, okay? Okay, I'll make you one. All right, it says Colorado's offensive line revamp was expected. Okay, I'm down here. Yeah, the revamp was expected because everyone in the country believes that it was the offensive line 4-8, not knowing that there's some coaching flaws on that team as well. You ever ask yourself why a lot of the coaches left? All right. So Hank Zelenskas survived the purge. Others weren't as fortunate. The sophomore center is one of just 3 returning Colorado offensive linemen who saw action last season. Ben Renzik and Kareem Harden are the others. Last year's starting left tackle, Gerald Christian Littlehan, and starting center Van Wells are headed to Oregon State. Jack Bailey, who started all 12 games at left guard for the Buffs last season, has transferred to Northwestern, and Savion Washington, who is now at Syracuse after starting 9 games at right tackle for Colorado. So again, it's like he has a new team again. And you know what I said about that. It's almost like this is his first year. When I say his first year, I'm talking about Coach Prime. You have a new flock of guys that you have to kind of retrain and rebuild that team chemistry all over again. So you're starting from scratch again. But this time, I just hope that the experience that Coach Prime had his first year, that he doesn't repeat the same damn mistakes the second year. I just hope that he learns from that. Okay? Yeah, man. Good evening, man. Super Unknown. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, UCLA game O-line said, forget Shedeur. I think they did. You live out your dreams. I really feel that they did. I didn't feel like they were giving the effort. I don't feel like they were giving the effort. Because people know, like, you continue to put us in harm's way. It's almost like you're setting us up. It's like, I'm not trying to be a conspiracy theorist here, but it's almost as if, like, I'm going to prove a point that you guys are the weak point of my team. I'm going to continue to pass and pass and pass, even though I know my son is getting he's getting knocked, he's getting sacked 17 times, or I don't know, sacked 7 times, knocked down 17 times, hurried about 15 times. I don't know what the numbers were, but they were abnormal numbers that you won't even see on a freaking video game. But I'm going to continue to pass the ball. The offensive line were worn out. They were like, man, you're not helping us. You're not putting us in the best position to win. You're not putting us in the best position to win. You can't. That's like a track. I'm going to use a track analogy here. That's analogous or comparable to a sprinter, right? A person who's known for being a sprinter, for knowing they're known for being a good 100-meter runner. But then you tell that person, hey, I want you to run the cross country Olympics. I want you to run the one that they run for hours. I want to see how far you can go. And you push that athlete to do that. That athlete will hate you because my strength is not that. That's my weakness, coach. My strength is 100 meters. The football team, remember, the offensive coordinator, Sean Lewis, I think that was his name, right? Sean Lewis? Yes, Sean Lewis. The offensive coordinator, Sean Lewis, at Kent State, he ran the ball. He brought some offensive linemen with him from Kent State to run the ball. When they got to Colorado, they did not run the ball. So that was the problem. So anyway, let me continue this article. It says, last year, okay, I already read this, so I'm down here. Said that group was largely responsible for Sanders getting sacked. So, okay, so the article is saying that those guys are gone. Like, those are the old ones. We got new ones now. So this article is totally dismissing the old offensive line. It says that group, the group that transferred, all the names that I read before in the previous paragraph, it says that group was largely responsible for Sanders getting sacked on 10.2% of his dropbacks. And FBS average is 6.1. So he's obviously way higher than the average, which is not good. And he was pressured on 36.8% of his dropbacks last season. Okay. Needless to say, I'm down here. Needless to say, this Colorado offensive line won't look the same in 2024. That's without question, because if all the old ones left, you're obviously going to get new ones. It says Zelinkas is the only returning offensive lineman who is projected to start this fall after he showed real promise last season as a true freshman. The 6'3", 295-pound center played in 11 games, 2 starts for the Buffs in 2023, allowing just 1 sack on 104, according to Pro Football Focus. Okay, here it says, let me highlight here. Hank Zelinkas was here a year ago, got some reps, but then watched this winter as we brought in like 6 guys around him. Colorado offensive coordinator Pat Schumer said on April 25th, he didn't say anything, he didn't say anything. He kept working, he was resilient, he's tough, he kept learning, he kept developing, and he got bigger. He didn't want from a develop. It's credit to him. I'm down here. It's credit to him. And I think if we had to play a game tomorrow, he'd probably be the guy there. Okay, let me see what you guys are saying. Super Unknown, you said not even trying to run the ball last year was coaching malpractice, in my opinion. Hopefully they run the ball at least 25. Yeah, it's coaching malpractice. Exposing your offensive line. You can't do that. It's okay. Let's flip it. Let's say that Colorado had a great offensive line and they had a horrible running back, but they kept on running the ball. Let's say the running back's name was, I don't know, Deion Sanders. Let's say the running back was Coach Prime's son, and the quarterback was just another quarterback. He wasn't related to Coach Prime. And then Coach Prime wanted to prove a point that his son was a great running back. But Coach Prime kept force feeding the ball to his son. But that's not the strength of your team is the offensive line. Why not throw the ball? So that's the way I felt. If you flip it around, it makes more sense. Second, I'm almost done. I'll be there in a second. Okay. Where am I at here? Yeah, I'm here. Oh no, I already read that. Okay, I'm down here. I'm down here. Zelinkus. Okay, so Zelinkus earned praise and a starting spot this spring, despite the fact that an expected transfer was brought in at his position. Former UConn, I'm down here. Former UConn center Yakari Walker appeared in UConn, playing a total of 797 snaps, and then should provide stability at the position along with Zelinkus. With the addition of guys like Walker, the competition level on the Buffs offensive line has raised immensely. Okay, that's great. Competition does build strength. But that's every college team. Every college team is doing that. But the difference between every other college team that are building from the ground up and building through recruits, continuity with the same players. The shifting, the constant movement concerns me. Having guys come in and out, it was expected with the performance we had last year, as the link was told to Colorado in May. I wasn't surprised by that or anything, but I think there's a lot of good that comes from it. I wonder what good can come from all the changes. I don't think there's. I mean, you maybe your perception of you guys being better is a good thing because we know that majority of sports is mental. So if you believe that you guys will be better, perhaps you may play better. But from a logical perspective, it's better for your well. If the offensive line were that horrible, it's good that they moved. But then again, you're starting from scratch with new guys. Will they be improved? That's not really saying much. It was so horrible last year that any slight improvement is an improvement. You don't have to be game busters to be that great. They don't have to even be they don't even have to be radically improved to say they improved. They just have to improve by a smidge, by a smidget, that you could say they're better. So I mean, that's not saying much. If they were that bad last year, there's not much. There's not much improvement. I mean, there's a lot to improve. So any little thing that they do will be an improvement, and that could be taken totally out of context. You know, the thing is, are they going to be good? It's not about being improved. Are they going to be good? That's the question. You can be improved, relatively speaking. You can improve. You can go from being broke to having nothing in your bank account to having $1. That's an improvement. But is having just $1 in your bank account good? No, it's not good. But relatively speaking, from when you had zero, you can say it's good because you improved from zero. So I'm not talking about them improving. Will they be good? Will they be serviceable? Will they be legitimate? And I don't think they will because it's too much newness. And it takes time to be, especially if you're going to predicate your offense on passing, good luck. I think they should stick to running the ball. I really think that they should, but I don't think Coach Prime's going to allow that. He has to get his son the Heisman, has to get his son in the Heisman talks. He wants his son drafted by any means necessary. All right, so I'm going to read along here. Last paragraph. It says, for me to be able to learn from them and try to help them as well, I think it's very beneficial. Yeah, it's going to be a lot of learning. So this first year is going to be a huge learning experience for everybody involved. And when you're learning on the job, a lot of mistakes are going to be made. So I foresee the same thing happening again. Let me stop sharing because I think, oh, hold on. It's still some more to read. I'm not done yet. I'm not done yet. It says, what would Colorado's revamped offensive line look like? It says Deion Sanders and his recruiting staff haven't just added talent to this offensive line room. They've also added experience. That's good. That's good. Because talent is one thing, but having experience is another thing. Perhaps Colorado's biggest transfer addition in the trenches was former UTEP guard Justin Myers, PFF's Pro Football Focus's fourth highest graded interior offensive lineman in the Big 12 for 2024. The 6'4", 320, ooh, that's a big boy. 6'4", 320-pound graduate transfer chose the Buffs over Mississippi State, Pitt, South Carolina, Texas Tech, and others after starting all 12 games at left guard for the Miners last season. I like that addition. Just his, just the measurements, his measurables are awesome. That's good. That's good. and his rating with the PFF for Pro Football Focus. I like that. Oh, Super Unknown, you say not even trying to run. Oh yeah, you already read that. All right, that I thought it was another added comment. Okay, reading along here, it says since 2022, Myers has allowed just 2 sacks across 846 pass blocking snaps and has pass blocking grade of 86.3 according to Pro Football Focus. He is projected to start at left guard in 2024. Oh yes, they're going to need that. Left tackle and left guard are going to be the two most important positions on that line if they want to showcase and highlight Shedeur's talent. He is projected to start at left guard in 2024 and will be a massive upgrade from last season's situation. I agree. I agree that's an upgrade, but let's see how that works. Units. Remember, offensive linemen, it doesn't say offensive lineman, it's offensive linemen, plural. So they have to work together because remember, the defense, they run all sorts of stunts. There are blitzes that are coming in from different directions. So it's going to be a learning curve because you can be talented individually with your own man, but there's a lot of stunts that are mix up the offensive line, which is why the offensive line needs chemistry and camaraderie and a sense of continuity to understand how to move on the string to be in one accord. So yes, individually, he's an upgrade. But how does that materialize when they're blocking? That's yet to be seen. And we'll see this upcoming season. All right, this paragraph here says the other starting guard will either be Tyler Brown or Tyler Johnson, both of whom will make their Colorado debuts this fall. Reading along here, last paragraph says here Brown was ruled ineligible for the 2023 season due to former 2 transfer rule starting 13 games on the offensive line for Deion Sanders at Jackson State in 2022, earning AP 13 FCS All-American honors. Okay. Johnson, reading along here, it says Johnson was the number 5 interior offensive lineman in the transfer portal after spending the last 2 seasons at Houston as the Cougars starting guard. Across 890 pass blocking snaps, Johnson has allowed just 2 sacks and has pass blocking grade of 84.9 according to Pro Football Focus. He's the only Colorado football player who made on threes preseason all transfer portal team. That's good. I'm liking what I'm hearing. So this is why the author of this article said why he believes the Colorado offensive line will be improved. On paper, as I'm reading it with my eyes, what I'm gleaning from this is that it will be improved. The critical question to ask is how improved? How much improved? It will be improved by default. The guys you're getting in are better than the guys they had last year. But how improved? That's the question. Indiana transfer Khalil Benson is projected to start at right tackle for Colorado and brings a wealth of game experience to this offensive line unit. The 6'6", 305-pound junior has 17 career starts under his belt and allowed just 1 sack on 424 pass attempts last season. Okay, that's an improvement. Because the experience factor, I think that the experience factor is going to give them the advantage of being improved this year. You know, the number 1 offensive tackle in the class 2024, Jordan Seaton, will be tasked with protecting Sanders' blind side as a true freshman. Whoo, I can't wait. Usually, I prefer my true freshmen to sit in redshirt, but you're throwing this guy, Jordan Seaton, in right to the Wolves as a freshman. We'll see how he does. Either this is going to kill his confidence or excel his confidence. Because, Power 5 conference ball and high school ball are like 2 totally different sports. It's like 2 totally different universes. It's not even the same thing. I don't care how dominant he was in high school. When you start playing Power 5 ball, you're going to realize that it's much different than what it was in high school. But I'm sure he's going to be up to the task. And I think that's why he turned down the other schools, because other schools are going to have him redshirt, and he wanted to play immediately. So be careful what you wish for. You're about to be thrown in there, Jordan Seaton. We'll see how you do. Reading along here, it says, his development throughout the year will help determine the ceiling of this unit. His development. Yes, it starts with the offensive tackle, the left tackle. His development is going to be key. All right. Luckily for Seaton, he'll be surrounded by experienced upperclassmen who want to see each other succeed. I agree. So he is surrounded by experience. That's good. Young, inexperienced offensive line that I'm like, uh-oh, this is trouble, but it's not. We have a lot of guys in the offensive line room who have great attitudes towards each other. Shedeur said after Colorado's spring game on April 27th. Sometimes it's friction, but we always work it out, and we're always a family. Reading along here, they won't let what happened last year happen again. Colorado's offensive line has a great mix of developmental. Colorado's projected starting offensive line looks strong on paper. As I said earlier, it looks strong on paper, but what happens when the inevitable injury occurs? The Buffs will be ready with reinforcements this time around. So that's good. That's good to know that they have backups, because a lot of the times teams are always talking about who they have starting, but if your backups are not good, then you don't really have a good team. You need everybody on the team to be good. You know, if you have good starters and horrible, setting yourself up for failure. You're simply saying that I'm I'm assuming that we're going to go all season without any injuries. We know that's not the way football works. Football is a very physical sport, as you guys know. Injuries happen all the time, so you do need reinforcement. So that's a good point made by the article. And they do have reinforcement, so that's a good thing for Colorado as well. That wasn't typically the case in 2023, and they didn't have good backups in 2023. And it's part of the reason Colorado limped to a 1-8 finish in the final 9 games. The Buffs recruiting staff landed a new unit via the transfer portal, but also important depth pieces for when the wear and tear for a long season kicks in. Michigan State transfer Ethan Boyd committed to Colorado last month after playing in all 12 games, 3 starts at right tackle. For the Spartans in 2023, the 6'7", 326-pound offensive line logged 313 total offensive snaps in the Big Ten last fall. Okay, then after the duo of Peyton Kirkland and Zach Owens, both of whom transferred to Colorado with 4 years of eligibility remaining. So they have a crop load of guys, man. This is good. This is good. In case someone gets injured, plug somebody else in. They may not be as serviceable as a starter, but they can at least hold the fort down till the starter gets back from injury. So that's a good thing to know. The 6'6", 366-pound Kirkland spent his freshman season at Texas and didn't see any game action in 2023, but held 50-plus offers out of high school as a former 4-star recruit. Talent. So we'll see how that materializes in Boulder. Owens was also a 4-star recruit in class of 2023 before he committed to Clemson. The 6'6", 380-pound offensive lineman, nicknamed Flapjack, that's a crazy nickname, played in 2 games for the Tigers last season, but preserved his eligibility by redshirting. That was smart. That was smart. Live Out Your Dreams. He says, I'm tired of hearing about these linemen in both sides. I need to see it. Yeah. We need to see it. We need to see it. Yeah, we definitely need to see it. And that's the part, that's going to be the crushing thing, that if you hear these things, how great they're going to be or how good they're going to be, then you see it materialize on the field, you're like, this is what you're talking about. It really makes people angry. But this is all part of the journey. This is what part of being a fan is. You read these things, you have these expectations, they either get met or your expectations gets busted. All right. Either of these highly touted prospects down here, either of these highly touted prospects can be an option for new offensive line coach Phil Loadholt in the event of injury, or Seton needing more time to get acclimated to college football. And down here, Colorado, have a great mix of developmental prospects. On3's national recruiting analyst Philip Dukes told the Coloradoan, you look at a guy like Peyton Kirkland, huge guy, developmental. You bring him in, coach him up, and then you are a for the bright lights. They have enough where they don't absolutely have to start him now. Last year, you would have had to start him. Now you have time to develop him. That's good. See, that's how you develop a team. You get talent. You don't have to throw them in immediately. You develop them. So when they do get in, they're ready. You never want to rush the process to the other players who've developed themselves. You're going to throw a guy out there, he's going to be exposed. You get a guy, let me read what you guys are saying. You say, I'm tired of, okay, yeah, we need to see it, because coach going to make Yeah, yeah, he has to. He's sell. Yeah, Cole. He's gonna make it sound good. You know, it's almost like a salesman. You got to sell your product. You got to. He's not gonna talk negatively about it because remember when he first came, I'm bringing my Louis luggage. He talked it up, but when things didn't go too well, he started to throw his offensive lineman underneath the bus. So right now he's talking it up. So let's see if he lives up to the expectations that he's elevating it up to. You get a guy like Flapjack, another huge guy. Now think about your bookend tackles. These two guys don't have to play this year. You already have guys who are in front of them. But I guarantee you, if you got those two guys last year, they both start or they are really in your rotation. Maybe both of them are your sixth or your seventh guy. Now they're your eighth or your ninth guy, which makes a ton of difference when it comes to playing in a conference like the Big 12. The talent level, and down here, the talent level of Colorado's roster improved significantly, and the Buffs' offensive line room might have taken the biggest leap this season. That should bode well for Shedeur's final college football season before the 2025 NFL draft. So yeah, this article is basically pro Sanders, and there's nothing wrong with it being pro Sanders. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. It's pro Sanders, and rightfully so, it should be. And they're saying how it's going to be a better season for Shedeur. Well, they're assuming that it's going to be a better season for Shedeur based upon the things that we read. And I think that it should if they're smart with the way they call their offensive plays. If they scheme it up, if they don't make it obvious that we're just trying to pass the ball on every damn play, it can work out for them. All right. So thank you guys for listening. I got my kids. They got to do my daddy duties. Or they're at the door bothering me. Got to put some food in their stomachs and get some things done. And the NBA Finals is like coming on in like 1 minute. I'm going to catch that. So thank you two guys for commenting and keeping me engaged and saying and bringing up some relevant points that made sense. Like we want to see this happen. We want to see it. All right. And who is quarterback two? That's important. And okay, live out your dreams says, and who is QB2? That's important. Yeah, I don't even know who their backup quarterback is. That's true. I need to probably look that up. Super unknown. Oh yeah, thank you. You're welcome, man. Thank you guys for tuning in. Leave a comment. Tell me what you guys think, and I'll be back with another one at another time. All right, peace out, guys. Thank you. Bye.